Oh, hello everyone, and welcome back to Out of Spite, the show where LGBT issues are anything but out of mind. I am one of your broadcasters, Dan, pronouns he, they.
My name is Jane, and my pronouns are she and her.
I'm Jade. My pronouns are she and her.
And I'm Luna, my pronouns are they, them.
Wonderful. So, as I'm sure some of you have noticed based on the title, we're going to be talking about relationships today. Not just romantic ones or intimate ones, like, all type of relationships, like friendships, family, that sort of thing. So, to start us off with like sort of general experience, it's like personally myself, I've had it depends. Good relationships with my friends and my current partner, my parents, not so much. How about all of you guys? All you?
I had like a similar experience, but I think I also have like a very interesting relationship with the concept of relationships because I think in just general society, like there is kind of like the assumption that like a romantic relationship is like at the very top and is the most important relationship in your life, and everything is kind of more like everything's like kind of lesser than that, every other kind of relationship, but to me it's all like even ground, like any
Mm.
like whether it's platonic, romantic, familial, like there like any kind of relationship can be the most important relationship in my life, and I don't really like the kind of relationship does not signify its intensity to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah.
uh,
Hmm? Did you
no,
have
yeah,
more?
go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I kind of just agree with you. So big old me too, but not including my family. They don't deserve that. Um,
Yeah, I don't. Well, most of my family, like, and that's just not just because, like, I'm like, oh, family sucks, but my family happens to suck.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, I when I think of relationships, my mind just strictly goes to like not strictly, but like mostly goes to like like romantic relationships opposed to like platonic ones. Like I think
Mhm.
immediately when I think of relationships, like m- my boyfriends or the dudes that I've entertained or something like that, opposed to like just like my mom and my dad and my sister and my brother and like my whole family. Like I don't know, it's just how I how I think. Maybe that's something I need to change, but that's just when I think of that, it's the first thing that comes to mind.
Right. I mean, I'm pretty sure like when someone says relationship, that's the first thing anyone thinks about.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
and just on the topic of romantic relationships, it's very interesting to think about like how we even end up in relationships before we even talk about like the content of them. Like, how do we get there?
Oh, right.
Uh, in talking about this a little beforehand, it's kind of surprising to me to find that we have like very different ways of like ending up in relationships or finding relationships or however that might be. Like for me personally, uh, I've never really gone out and sought out romantic relationships. I've never gone like on like like intentional dates and stuff like that. Like I've never, that's not my scene. Like I just kind of wind up in relationships. And of course, like not to say that I don't consent to them, but it's more like I like what often happens is I have like a best friend, and then eventually one of us is just like, "Hey, you're cute," and it's like, suddenly I have a relationship. Oh no, it's been 7 years. We're still here. So
Hmm.
yeah, and so that's how it kind of usually happens for me.
Um.
It's like falling into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So to add to that, I'd say I've kind of done a lot of different ways of getting into relationships. I like used to look for people. Like my all my experiences in high school were very much me trying to like do all the boring normal. Hey, do you want to go on a date type dealy? Um, and all those situations were terrible. So as it turns out now that I'm kind of doing what you're doing and just like growing close enough to someone that I end up dating them, it's a lot better. It just kind of happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm yeah, I'm more of a I find myself like I find relationships in weird ways. Like it's not like I'm like, ooh, like going on apps like, hey, my name is Jane, I'm da 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 like, it's like not like a okay Cupid, I'm looking for like relationships. It's just like, somebody hits me up randomly and I'm like, word. And they give me their proposition, their resume, and I check it out and I accept it or not.
Right.
But that also can be in a way like winding up in it because sometimes I find myself like getting too caught up in the fantasy of the resume opposed to like the reality of it,
Yeah.
like the idea of, is this really the intentions or are they just kind of like, playing a game?
Right.
Right.
No, I get that. And before like I share my own comments on this sort of subject, we have a question. So the question is from Bratty Butts. Butts?
Bubs? Yeah.
Bubs?
But
But
Listen, I don't know how
we'll
to I
call
don't know
you
how to
out.
read stuff. But how do you okay, can someone else read this? I don't know how to speak.
How do you differentiate the importance of a relationship to you?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Could I think I could probably say that, like,
Hit it.
I don't know. I think it's just something you feel. I don't think I really go around in my life and like do like a ranking system or anything. Um, but I think that's just the sort of thing where it's just like you either kind of become close to people or you don't. And I don't know that it's something that like is quantifiable. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I don't know.
what was the question again?
How do you differentiate the importance of a relationship to you?
Um, well, the importance of a relationship,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like romantic, well, consistency, um, conversation, making me feel like I'm the goddess that landed on this earth one by like by myself.
Oh yes, of
Um,
course.
and yeah, like I don't mean I'm not like a whole monogamy type of person, but like I like my partners to feel like they're monogamous. Like, you know.
Right, right. I guess to share my own thoughts, it really does depend on how much of an impact that person has on my life, and that kind of like pulls back into like my own sort of like finding up, like winding up in relationships romantically. It's I mean, they start out as friends. Like my current partner of like over 5 years, I've been with him since I met with him on Instagram. Like that day, I was just having a bad day, and I just wanted to talk to someone who wasn't like. And we met. We talked about like all of our favorite stuff, and then we just got closer and closer, and I felt more comfortable with him. And at the time, I hadn't came out as trans because I wasn't. I didn't. I didn't know. I didn't. I don't know. I just. It was a very like weird sort of like space I was in. And then I
Mhm.
talked to him about it, and that's when I just kind of like oh okay, so this is what I'm feeling. This is who I am, and that's around the same time where we got together.
That's sweet as hell. That's super sweet.
I know I'm in a love story, guys.
Amen.
uh, yeah, I think oh geez.
Oh,
Oh,
jeez.
I think this is Jade. Do you have words? I think this is your turn.
Oh no. What do you mean? Why is that?
Wait, no, like I talked about Instagram. Like Jane, do you have any sort of like um kind of like like not ideas, opinions on like how technology kind of affects like our sort of our relationship?
Oh yes. Oh my gosh, you're right. I
It's not like this was
do. Oh
planned
my
or anything.
gosh. I do.
Hmm.
I just think I think that, well, I was kind of talking about it before in a sense, right? I was kind of saying like how I find myself getting hit up by people,
Mhm.
on certain apps and stuff, but I also feel like seeking, like those apps where you're seeking somebody, like OkCupid or Tinder or Grinder or just all these freaking apps that are supposed to be meeting up, social interaction, and these type of apps are Christian Mingle. They're just hookup apps. They're hookup apps for people that, they just become hookup apps. And then I remember I was on there one time and some guy was like, I was like, well, I'm looking for some blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, well, you're on the wrong app. I'm like, what?
Wow.
Wow.
I'm like, damn.
It's like, I don't know from experience, but I've heard like those kinds of apps can be very toxic.
Right.
I don't know.
From the very little experience I've had on them, yes, absolutely. I have found a lot more luck in like old-fashioned social media. I'm gonna bring up Tumblr. I'm instantly dating myself here, everyone. I'm immediately old. Tumblr. That's where I met someone I dated for 2 whole lovely years, at least. It was a little bit more than that, but it's a longer story.
That's cute.
Yeah, it was
That's
great.
cute.
It was.
I never had a 2-year relationship.
I seem to be running into patterns of them. It's like 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, and every time it ends horrifically and an explosion. But
Damn.
Oh, jeez.
yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. Just an explosion. Just the atomic bomb.
Yeah. Yeah. But
It's
yeah.
fine. It's gallows humor.
Well, I mean, I love technology. Like, I'm in a long distance relationship currently. Like, as I've already stated, I mean, I haven't really stated it was long distance, but but I don't only use like technology for like romantic relationships. I also use it for like friendships, like on Twitter. Like, there's like this. I've made a lot of friends in like art groups and joining different discords. And some really good friends I have right now is because I met them off of Twitter, and we started talking, and now I'm in their like RP group. And for those who don't know, it's like role playing where we like make characters and we like pretend to be them. And it's such a fun experience, like being able to do that because you get to know these people who you know their faces, but you still have that connection. You still have like that sort of like friendship, and no one can take that away from you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think technology is especially important during these times. I think it's the only way for a lot of people to communicate with their partners. And I know like it's been like really rough on a lot of people, but similarly to you, Dan, I it's weird to call what I like me and one of my partner's relationships like a long distance one or that it used to be. But it effectively was. We literally maybe live a mile away from each other, but for a long time when we were still when we were dating in middle school, his parents absolutely hated me and would not let me see him. So we couldn't see each other. So phone was our only method of communication, basically. And I think it was very rough at first, but it's something that I like as I grew accustomed to it's almost like I don't even notice it. Like I don't feel sad about it. I don't feel like I'm missing out. I'm just like, oh yes, this is just how I communicate with my partner. And even now that we get to see each other more often, and we've had to come back to this sort of situation during the coronavirus, it's more like, this is familiar. I recognize this. Like this is not too big of a deal for me personally.
Right. Kind of like to put a hold before we move on a little bit. We have another question.
Oh, lovely.
Hell yeah.
Is how do you feel it's hard to genuinely be yourself online, like dating sites?
Oof. So
Yeah.
go on.
Who would like to like talk first?
Go, Jane.
Oh, I think it is because when you're yourself, like completely 100%, I don't know. I come off. Maybe this is just me. Maybe I come off a little too bitchy because I'm like I know what the whole scene is like. So I'm more like straight to the point, straight there. Like what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck, and then they're like, oh, but you are mad rude. Like, you're mad rude. Like, I'm not rude. It's just I know what this gives. I know what this is giving. Like, I know what this is giving, so I'm just gonna be honest. Like, is this what you want? Is that what you want? You know, I don't want to see no weenie pics coming at me and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, so I'm gonna be honest about it. Like, I'm gonna be like, you really nasty, like, for that. Like, that's really disgusting.
You and your undercooked hot dog.
That's real though.
It is.
But right, but and if I was a different person, like if I was not myself, I'd be like, oh, funny, like that's so funny. Like I would be like, you know, some dumb stuff. But I feel like it's harder to be yourself because you don't want to offend people, but like, or you don't want to be that one person that's like, I'm looking for commitment on an app that nobody has commitment.
Right.
So
You can just say
that's my
it's okay.
little je ne sais quoi.
That's fair. Yes. So I spent most of in the case of dating apps, I've mostly been on like OkCupid. And I know
Sure.
for a fact that like you're not supposed to be all like your actual self, or this is what it feels like. Because all the time I've like been me through it, I either things go like really towards the hookup-y side of things, and I don't want that, or I like scare people off with having like a regular conversation, and I don't see the point. Like yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
Right.
it feels like they're pushing you in like a box that I don't want to be part of. So yeah, I'd say yeah, it's real difficult to be yourself on dating app.
I guess maybe that's why I never used it.
That's fair.
Lucky you.
Yeah. That's scary.
It's very
Lucky you. Shit.
much okay. But moving on, Luna, I know you had something to say about maintaining relationships.
Oh yeah, I guess I kind of like was talking about it a little bit, with just like talking about technology and stuff. But uh, but it's like it's one thing to just like get into a relationship. I think some people might think like once you get into the relationship, that's it, you're done. Like you've done it, you got the relationship. No more work. That's it. You're good. No, absolutely not. That's as someone who's currently in a 7-year relationship, relationships take a lot of fucking work, like a lot of really hard work to maintain, and it's hard because like you have to really be honest with yourself and with the other person about like who you are and what you're feeling and what you both want out of your relationship. And when things come up, you have to like not just kind of like argue about it and then forget about it and pretend like it didn't happen. You have to actually address the root of the problem. You can't just have the same argument like 2,000 times and be like, this is fine. Like, it takes a lot of genuine work. But to me, it is so very rewarding and worth it because, like, I just care so much about my partners, and it's just so lovely to, like, have them in my life. And I think it's completely worth it. And I would also, honestly, personally, I would also put, like, the same amount of effort into, like, any, like, important platonic or familial relationships because, like, if I care enough about you, like, I am, like, willing to put in that work, you know? I don't know.
Right. I know, like, I completely
Nice.
agree with that. It is nice. Like, to add on, like, yeah, putting in the effort is definitely the way to go. Like, you can't expect the other person to put in effort if you're not putting in effort, you know? Like, then...
And vice versa.
Yeah, and vice versa, right? Like, they can't expect you to be the only person putting in the effort and them not doing anything. It's just, that's the sort of thing that it is. And while not all arguments are bad arguments, it's important to kind of realize when you're arguing too much and when you're, like, kind of, like, at each other's throats. Like, an argument here or there about something, like, that's fine. It happens. We're not the same people. You're not looking, like, most people don't try and find the same person to be in a relationship with. But just, it's good to, like, kind of, like, realize, like, hey, no, we're arguing every day about the littlest of things.
Stupid stuff.
Yeah, so it's like, kind of take a step back and evaluate that. Like, is that the relationship you want? Is that, like, the sort of, like, path you want to go down? And, like, it may be hard to kind of say, like, you want to be away from this person, but maybe it's the healthier option for the both of you.
Yeah, I agree with you. For someone who argues a lot and like knows how to argue, I'm the worst nightmare for somebody who that's what they love to do.
Mhm.
I'm their worst nightmare because I will argue down,
Right.
argue down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just good to know like the difference.
Yeah.
I think it's also quickly really important to understand that in an argument, like you have to be ready to admit if you can be wrong too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like don't go into it like, you know, my partner is wrong. They have wronged me. This is not what should be going on. No, like you might be wrong too. You're on an even
Right.
playing field here. You are partners. Figure it out.
It takes two to tango.
Yeah.
It does.
But like ignoring that, if you are arguing about small petty things like every single day, and you can't figure out why it keeps coming up, and you're like really trying, there is a point where I think you should really stop making excuses for your partners. Like if you are arguing constantly, if they don't seem to be budging, and like you can address that people have like their issues, like people don't always have to agree. You can have an argument that's like, okay, I'll I'll give you a little more leeway with the way you're talking because you're frustrated or whatever, but that cannot be for always. Like,
Every conversation.
yeah, like
Yeah.
if everything feels
Every
like
phone call.
yeah, if there's always an excuse, then at some point you need to understand that hey, maybe that person just doesn't really have your best interest in mind, and you might have to just figure out how to end that, go to therapy, or
Pack it up and leave.
yeah, or let it go.
Pack
God.
it up and leave.
Oh, and when you finally get to the point where you're possibly packing up and leaving, well, let me tell you, there's this lovely phenomenon that I like to call like the master reset after a relationship, or at least in monogamy, right? I'm saying all this experience from like a monogamous point of view, more versus what I really am now. But that's not the point. Basically, like when I am done with a relationship, when it's over, I feel like there's a lot of parts of like myself and my personality that I've like adopted from the other, and I feel like a lot of the time after a relationship is just figuring out what parts feel good, like which parts are still me, and which parts were just things I was doing for the other person, and like
Right.
figuring out what I want to do and how to like still be me at the end of this, or who I will be. Yeah, and like it gets a little difficult when you like you have when you end a relationship, but you're still trying to maintain a friendship with that kind of person.
Ha!
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah. It's extra difficult because like I don't want to let go of all those parts because I can still feel some of like what was, but like I objectively know that's bad, and I objectively know I need to like work on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you 110%. Like that master reset is one of the most valuable buttons you can press in a relationship, because sometimes you get so attached to the person and you know you kind of morph with them in a sense, like because it's an energy thing, like you know you guys are collectively exchanging energy, and like sometimes if you find out that the relationship is bad and you've been collectively exchanging energy, you have to master reset that so that you can wipe that out if it's not something you find beneficial to you, and just to build an immunity to the bad thoughts that you kind of had to go through with that person and deal with. I mean, I'm currently pressing that master reset right now.
Right.
But I've been pressing master reset for a long time. Shit, I ain't got no damn phone memory, nothing in my shit. Like,
Well, like it's a process, like you've said.
right. So, are we closing soon?
Actually, before we do that, we have another question.
Amen.
Okay, so this question is, do you feel like it's maybe harder for LGBTQ plus couples to maintain a relationship for a long amount of time versus hetero couples due to a stigma society attaches?
Yes. No and yes. No
No,
and
Yeah, I
yes.
was gonna say I think it's yes and no. I think it's both.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's yes and no. I feel like specific LGBT people have a better, easier time with it, and I feel like specific ones don't. I feel like
Right.
it's more harder for, you know, I don't know. I just feel like, I feel like, I don't know. I can't judge nobody's relationship. My answer is yes and no.
Right. It's kind of like a gray area.
I think I can say like certain portions of the queer community have like a very strong association with like kind of hookup culture, and I think that just gets so baked into some people's brains that even if they want a committed relationship, they don't really even know how to make that happen. So
Mm-hmm.
like they just end up in a cycle of like a bunch of 1 month long relationships that end in disasters, and it can be really tough. But on the other hand, I think there are queer people who like have not had like a lot of experience dating, who then like when they do get into a relationship, they're so like starved for love and affection that they don't get because they are just generally not accepted in society, that they just kind of
Mm-hmm.
cling on to this person and are just there forever. So it's kind
Mm.
of like it kind of depends on where you are and what your personal experience is. But yeah, I think it's yes and no. That's kind of my viewpoint.
Okay.
Um, I'd also like to give it a solid yes and no. Only so to specifically address the stigma part. Um, I feel like there are like certain groups in our lovely little alphabet that, how do I put it? Um, people, the broader majority, the regular, how do, fine, the hets, there we are. The straight people will look at it and be like, all right, that is fine because I find it attractive. Um, like,
Oh,
yeah, now you can see where I'm going with that, can't you?
yeah. Ha.
Yeah, yeah, like I feel like lesbians are like ignored as a problem almost, just because everyone, not everyone, but like it's often that they're sexualized, and yeah, and there's also like the whole U-Haul lesbian culture that just, you end up, the person you're dating, you just end up in a long relationship because that's what you do. It's like a weird thing that
Yeah.
happens. I don't know.
No, I completely agree
I
with
agree
all
with
of
you
it.
100%.
Yeah.
Cool things.
Amen.
Uh,
All right. So
So
yeah,
that's it. Is
yeah,
it
Jane.
closing?
Jane,
I
what are your
think so.
closing thoughts?
Well, my closing, I guess, with this whole conversation about relationships, love, and all of that, I think I'd just like to say that you engaging in any type of relationship, whether you're in a monogamous, polygamous, polyamorous, whatever, just be aware of yourself and know who you are first. I've made this problem countless of times where I wasn't aware of who I was or what I wanted or what I would hold myself a standard for. I didn't have, so I feel like you have to know what you want, what you don't want, what you like, what you don't like, how you act, how you want to be respected. Like these things are very valuable in engaging in relationships, and people can take advantage of those things if you're not aware. So definitely know yourself and know your limits and what you're
Mhm.
willing to allow.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Uh, More closing thoughts. Your partner is not your crutch. They're there to help you, but they cannot be the person who helps you for literally everything. You're still your
Mm-hmm.
own person. You still have to do things yourself.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think when you get like kind of like along those lines, when you get into a relationship, it's okay if you jump into that relationship when you're still like not necessarily like the most emotionally like sound at the moment or mentally, but like you have to like understand that you both can't like expect your partner to fix you, and you also can't expect to fix your partner. You both have
Mm.
to meet each other where you're at, you know.
Right.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
I agree with all of you. Like, let's be real here. Relationships are hard. Like
Yep.
they're not like it's not like they're supposed to be hard or something like that. It's more of like it's and I don't mean hard in a bad way, so to speak. It's more of like you need to maintain it. It's not something that just like you push it to the side and it'll be there. But you know, in my opinion, like the relationships I have, the relationships I've built, they're worth it to me. Like they're very much worth it, and I couldn't think of a world where I don't have the people that I have in my life already in it.
Oh,
Mm.
that's so sweet.
Yeah. Why are you so wholesome, dude?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, you ain't never had your heart broken? Shit.
I have. It's just I tend not to think of those times.
That's fair.
Mm.
That's fair.
And so you can't think about those times. I think it's time to close out. So, hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Out of Spite. We'll be here for one more week, right? Yeah, last episode next week, I think.
I
Oh
think
my
so.
gosh, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tune in next week, same time, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/QueerTVOfficial for our episode on queer-coded characters. And after that, maybe, just maybe, we'll have something after dark for you.
Ooh.
Amen. Finally. XXX.
It's been great talking to y'all today.
All right,
Bye, y'all.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.